Hello, Bigfoot enthusiast. Scott here from Squatch America.
And Hannah, domestic goddess, chief cook, and doggy mama in the paddy wagon with you today. I said that way slower.
Yeah, you did. We're coming to you
Not
live via Memorex.
not live.
Remember that commercial? Is it
Yeah,
live or is it Memorex?
this is definitely Memorex. So because we discovered sitting here, we're still at Medina Lake in Lake Hills, Texas, and just poor Elon just has not mastered the whole satellite placement in this area.
Well, actually, he has. It's just that we're in we can't find the sky where we're at.
We're in a juniper forest.
Juniper Forest. So it cuts out every once in a while. So we decided to go ahead and record it. No way we upload it, and there'll be no interruptions in the live stream.
Yeah. So with that,
Oh, you were going to talk? I was going to talk.
well, I was just gonna say, welcome to tonight's show, and it's been a while since we've had any guests on. I think we should. I think we should troll the Bigfoot groups, which we both belong to several Bigfoot groups on Facebook. Hardly ever participate in any of them. But that's where a lot of the other shows get their guests. But hey, who do you want to have us on? Well, that wasn't English. If you have any ideas about who we should bring on to interview, let us know. We would love to connect with them. But in the meantime, just coming up with content can be kind of a game and kind of a challenge on our end. So I asked a question this morning. Hey, how much do we actually use the real scientific method in Bigfoot research? And did you know that there's been a lot of very credible evidence that has come forth, not just using the scientific method, but from citizen scientists, not professional in the lab, whoop-de-la Bigfooters, and we know who they are, but just average Joe people out there doing the work.
Yep, and then that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to explain the scientific method and the importance of it. I know a lot of people kind of poo-poo education and stuff. I'm one of them, but
so am I, and I've got a whole hell of a lot of education.
Yeah, but there is some good in the scientific method and the purpose of it, and what it is, and we're going to get into talking about that tonight.
Yes, and how the scientific method and citizen science are tightly interconnected. So, what really excites me is that a lot of people, not necessarily such as yourselves, because y'all are more in the know than most people, but a lot of people think that I am a nobody. There's nothing I can contribute to the field of Bigfoot research. Um, and the point is that um, using the scientific method, anybody can contribute. So this excites me because it opens the door for everyone to be a Bigfoot researcher. So
yeah. So,
but before we get started, hit the like button, subscribe, share this video out into the YouTube algorithm. Okay.
There we go. So here we go. The scientific method, simplified.
Simplified.
Is that a word? Okay.
Yeah.
What is it and why it matters? So let's go down the list of actually what I actually have the list. Do that, Rush Limbaugh.
There we go. All right.
Um,
so the scientific method actually is a step-by-step process.
It is. It's a step-by-step guide on how to gather evidence.
Evidence.
Oh my gosh, words are not working for me today. Evidence, how to process evidence, how to study evidence, and how to get your conclusions for your evidence. And so we're going to start with the number one, observation.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the technical thing for that right there, dear?
Observation. So the scientific method is a structured way to investigate and understand the world. That's the whole point of the method. It's not just watching and observing and babbling about it. There's an actual structured way, to organize how you're observing and what you're saying about it. So observation is just that. It's observing something unusual or interesting. And what are examples of unusual or interesting things in the Bigfoot world?
Well, in the Bigfoot world, you've got what is considered the big three, footprints, sounds, and tree structures in the woods. That's the big three that we have for the scientific method that we can grab onto in the Bigfoot world.
So here's how. Let's say we find a footprint. Okay, and we find footprints a lot. Those are probably what we run across most.
Yes.
This is a weird print. What is this?
Yeah. In fact, out of Bigfoot evidence in the world, footprints are the most prevalent. I mean, people find footprints all the time. There's probably hundreds of casts made around the United States a year, if not more.
Yep. So here's an example. Here's like a play-by-play how we would approach a footprint. The first thing is an observation. We observe a footprint and then we ask the question, could this footprint possibly belong to Bigfoot?
And that's where a little bit of education comes in, but Cliff Barrickman has a cool saying, and I totally agree with it, is cast it.
Cast it, yeah. Cast all of them.
Cast everything.
That man keeps the plaster business in business.
Yeah.
He pays Plaster of Paris's light bill, I swear. Because they just throws plaster on everything. We're gonna cast everything.
Yeah, well, it's important to do so. Then you have your tangible in your hand, not going to go away unless you drop it, and then you still glue it back together. But evidence. So when in doubt, cast it. And then you got all the time in the world later. We'll get to that part of the scientific method later. But if it looks like a print,
cast it.
But
or actually, you know what? Because not everybody's going to walk around with gallon bags full of plaster and bottles of water. There is this awesome little app called, here it is. This app called, see that? Scaniverse. And what this app does, and by the way, Scaniverse, if you want to sponsor us, please just reach out. Scaniverse, it's hard to demonstrate it because I have nothing. In fact,
I have online.
What this does, this is a 3D scanner for your phone, and it is free. It is a free app. And if you just don't happen to have, like you didn't go to Ace Hardware on your way, into the forest and didn't, you don't have your buckets and all that stuff, you can actually use this phone app to 3D scan the print. And even if you don't have the cast, you have a 3D rendition of it on your phone.
So here's a quick and easy one I'm going to show. That's actually
the cast.
This is actually a scan of a cast. But the cool thing with Scaniverse is, it'll actually tag. In fact, I messed it up. I always mess things up.
It's because you just click and zoom, and then when you turn the phone around, you click and zoom again without meaning to.
Yeah, I meant to click on it to show. Well, it just did it on me. Oh, here we go. So when you scan with Scaniverse, it'll actually tag.
Oh yeah.
If I can get it'll tag your location. So this was scanned in Medellin Falls, Washington. It'll have the date and all that stuff on it. But the cool thing is you can scan the print, but the print is kind of cool because you can.
It gives you that 3D. You can rotate it. You can.
Yeah, you can rotate it. You can. Come on, focus. Anyway, you can zoom in on it. You can zoom out of it. But you can actually got this cool 3D look of the whole thing. And you can do the same thing with the footprint. Here's a footprint that we scanned. You can actually, this is in the dirt. You can zoom in on it. You can look at it at any angle.
Yeah.
So if you see this one here, if you can see the details.
It's a little hard in the camera.
A little hard in the camera, but on the phone I can scan.
You're even seeing like the flora and fauna and foliage surrounding the print.
Yeah, but
which is cool.
You can see the mid-tarsal break right here.
Yeah.
In it, you can see this is a footprint we found last year.
Yeah.
In fact, it probably should tell me. Oh, look. There's the GPS location. Oops, you didn't get to see it. So, but anyway, you can see we got this one July 15th, 2024 at 5:09 p.m.
Which means that was right when you were deploying Operation Pond Scum.
This was right exactly when we were deploying Operation Pond Scum when we found this track here. Okay.
Yeah. So you've got your observation, and then you've asked the question. Now, this is where people kind of get bogged down in things, because the whole point of the scientific method is not just asking a question and then finding answers. You want to test it. And so an important feature of the scientific method is forming your hypothesis. And what a hypothesis is an educated guess or an explanation that you can test. All right. So your question is, could this footprint belong to Bigfoot? And your hypothesis would be, this footprint could belong to a large bipedal creature. And then your tests are going to either hopefully prove that true or false. Mm-hmm. And I'll get to the rest of that later, but that is probably the quality of your hypothesis statement is really what's going to make or break your investigation. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of Bigfooters go out there and they really don't have a hypothesis they're working with. Right. Because you've got to be able to test it. So, and the testing is the experiment. We're going to experiment. We're going to throw everything at this to either prove or disprove what our educated guess is. So talk to us about what we do, because you're that guy. The experimental part. Yeah, I'm the big word gal. He's the experimental guy. Okay, so the experimental part is one, we want to measure everything. I meant the scan thing's pretty cool, but it doesn't give you measurements. I think it might, but I don't know how to work that. The best thing is to measure it. First, I carry a little. Do I have it? I don't have it with me, but I have a little tiny. It's tape, probably in your pocket, in your pants. Yeah, a tape measure I keep in my pants with me all the time. Just a little. It's a little like 12-foot tape measure. A lot of people carry those like cloth ones, or they make a little tiny retractable one in a little plastic case. Anything that'll measure is fine. Yeah. Go to your local dollar store and get one of those little sewing kits for $1 or $1.25, whatever. They will all come with like a waterproof tape. Well, some of
Yeah,
them
those
are
are
just,
yeah.
some of them are paper, but those will work.
Right. But
I
most of them are
prefer,
plastic,
yeah,
vinyl actually,
vinyl. So,
and they work fine, like the sewing ones, and you can just stuff that in your pocket. But so measurements are so important. Measure everything. Um, the width, the toe size, the length, the heel width,
the
the
depth
depth, all that stuff. Measure everything you possibly can and take pictures of it, everything you
from
possibly have
every
from
angle.
every angle. and then cast it, but get all your measurements and stuff first. And the best thing to do is keep a little uh, pad of paper with you, like those little spiral notebooks that you can stick in your pocket, and write it down. Don't try to remember it, and because you might forget a picture, you might forget, or you might be, oh, the picture was blurry, I can't read the tape measure. Write everything down. That's one of the most important things when you're doing the experimental part, is you got to have the information to experiment with. So
and
measure all that,
and you do want to write it down because human memory changes.
yeah, it does. And another thing too about, this footprint that we got here is uh we found more than one. We found a track way. So we were able to measure not this footprint, but the next footprint and how far they part. I usually measure them from the heel to heel. That gives you a good distance, because sometimes the toes spread and the toes don't pick up, or they might have the toes curled. But to get a good measurement of step length, the stride is heel to heel, because they're usually really definite. So I always measure heel to heel.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's the first part of experimentation. And then the next part, now remember, especially like with us and anyone that we train to do this, what's our tagline? We investigate the unexplained. We don't
explain the uninvestigated.
And when we are investigating the unexplained, and our friend Nikki Cologne loves this, and she should. Our goal is to prove ourselves wrong.
Exactly.
So you want to take this track now, or this evidence, we're using a track, for example, compare it to every possible known other creature in the area.
Right. So
does this look like a rabbit track?
Oh, yeah, or a bear. Bear's the most common, by the way.
Yeah.
That people mistake for Bigfoot tracks,
because they've got funky round feet.
Yeah,
and they step them together.
They step them together. Their front paw will step in. The rear paw will step into the track of the front paw and make it look longer than it really is.
And it makes it look like it has a metatarsal break.
Yeah, it does. And but if you're really careful when you see these prints, if the back half is kind of off like that, that's usually the bear print. But another thing is look in the front of the toes, and you will always find claw marks. But generally always find claw marks.
Yeah, because they got little scratchers.
So you got to compare these with known prints, and that's why I have two bins in the front of our trailer here in the garage. We have two big bins just full of known Bigfoot tracks. I got all the Patterson ones. I got all the Freeman ones. I'm working on collecting other ones, but so you can compare it with those. Okay, so another thing you can do is to set up trail cameras in the area after that to kind of expand on
them,
if you have them to
if you
expand
have them.
You don't have to.
Of course, we know that trail cameras
are worthless anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, and honestly, if so, we were watching Nikki Cologne's Sasquatch Secrets the other day, and someone asked, are they doing is anyone doing anything different in Bigfoot research than has it's anything different than what's been done in the last 60 years? And the overall answer is no,
not much, because
I've
come up with a couple ideas for more extensive data gathering stuff. We talked about our Operation Pond Scum. Was it last week or the week before? I don't know.
We talked about a lot, but
Yeah.
we did it last week. Yes.
Yeah. So we talked about that. And
it's
there's
still,
an upcoming
hold on.
Footprint Friday. Probably in 3 or 4 weeks, there's an upcoming Footprint Friday that we're starting a new project that we're going to be doing.
Yes, but
for gathering the evidence.
But the thing with the Operation Pond Scum, it still utilized trail cameras, and trail cameras historically have not yielded anything. And so the question remains, do we want to continue using trail cameras? Is there a point to using trail cameras when they're really good at capturing deer and bears and ducks and bunnies, but even the ones that aren't IR, you don't tend to capture a Bigfoot. So that tells me there's a degree of awareness that they have that other creatures don't. But so, sound recorders actually, I think, would be more beneficial. But anyway, so that's the experimental phase. And I think this is a good spot to break. And we're going to give our kudos to Elon. Anyway, imagine having high-speed internet no matter where you are. With Starlink, that dream is now reality. No more buffering, lag, or limited access. Starlink connects you to ultra-fast, reliable internet anywhere on Earth. From seamless streaming to intense gaming and productivity, Starlink empowers you to do it all. And here's the best part. Sign up using our exclusive link and get your first month free. Don't miss out on the future of internet. Click the link in our description to get started today. Starlink, revolutionizing internet, one connection at a time. Join now. Just don't put your Starlink in a Juniper Forest.
Yeah.
That's just a little tip and trick right there.
Yeah, we even have a pole and I can't get it up over the trees. So that's the problem.
If you don't know what a Juniper Forest looks like, well, those ugly juniper bushes from the 70s that we've all pulled out from in front of our house? Yeah, just imagine a forest of those, and there you go.
And they're giant.
And they're actually they're beautiful trees, but boy,
yeah,
we can't see the sky at all. Anyway, so we've talked about evidence and data collection. The more data you can collect, the better. When I was working on one of my master's theses, the data collection was actually the hardest part of the whole process, because when you collect data, you want to collect enough to have a really good sample to support the testing process. So, for instance, if you have a footprint and you compare it to, well, it's definitely not a coyote, so it must be a Bigfoot. That's not going to cut it. You need lots and lots of corroborating data to determine whether or not your educated guess is more correct than not. So after you collect the data, then it's my most unfavorite part.
Analysis?
Yes. You want to know a secret, everyone? So I've got a published master's thesis, and it is actually a pretty significant part of the social science research community, and I get notified multiple times a day of different people that are using my thesis for their own research. So I know how to do research, let me tell you. But little known dirty little secret from my master's days, I'm not a math person, and I love data analysis because I love where it leads you. I love the interpretation of it and the answers it gets you, but the actual analysis part, it makes me cry and it makes my head hurt. And my research professor did all my analysis. He was so excited about what I was writing about that he started helping me do my data analysis, and then he got so excited that he just kept doing it, and I just said, okay, You just do. And by the time the class was over that day, he had run all of my data analysis and I could just go back to what I loved, which was interpreting it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so don't give me anything mathy to do because I'll just farm it out to someone else. Anyway, so the analysis is where you see what the data tells you. What is this telling you? So,
and to give you guys another thing, I don't know if I have that on my phone. I had it. I don't know if I still have it. One of the things you can do is there is a couple apps, and there's an identifier, and I can't remember where it's called, but I have like this one here. It's called BirdNet, and what it does, it started recording. Come on, there you go. It's the one that says BirdNet right there.
he's got a bird identifier and a plants identifier
And an animal identifier. And what those are is if you're doing the recordings and you get a recording, you can play that into the bird identifier and it'll say, oh, that's this bird.
That's where we discovered that my Jabberwocky bird was actually called a Carolina wren.
Yeah. So, and then there's one that has animal sounds too that you can play into, and that'll help you do that analysis really quick. So you don't have to like shop it around and say, hey, I don't know what this animal is, and that one's pretty good at it. So there's that.
Yeah. So your analysis is where you're really studying the data.
Right. And another thing too is you don't have to do it yourself. The analysis, like Hannah just described.
You can find someone to cheat for you.
Yeah. Like one of the things I said, like I have all these footprint casts. I also have the ones from the London Trackway, and I have I have ours from our London Trackway that we found, and I have some of Cliff's from the ones he found.
And
so I have copies.
We have
of all
one
those.
more.
What?
We still have Tobes.
Oh, and I have Tobes from the London Trackway.
Yeah.
Of Tobe Johnson's. So
sorry, Tobe, we just haven't been able to meet up with you.
Yeah.
We're keeping it very, very padded and safe.
Yes. I have his original one from that.
Yeah.
So if you send me your photos and stuff, I'm pretty good at looking at them, and I can compare them to the ones I have and get back to you and say, hey, okay, and this is my hypothesis.
Or this is my based on actually you say that based on your hypothesis, this is my analysis. Okay. Yeah. And so is the footprint too big, too small? Does it match another animal?
Yeah.
Are your sounds consistent with other wildlife in the area, or are they absolutely different? Mm-hmm. And then based on that, this is where it all comes down to. Based on your analysis, does the evidence support your hypothesis? After doing all that, does it support the statement this print could belong to a large bipedal creature? Yes or no? Based on the evidence, mm-hmm. Is it yes? And yes in research means probably, more than likely, or is it a clear no? And the other thing that this fails to take into consideration is a true mark of the scientific method at work is that it can be repeated. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, London Trackway, we got those tracks 12 years later. We ran the same scientific method with them. Compared them to the last one. And actually the results were the same, inconclusive. Inconclusive. We don't know. Definitely not a person. Don't know if it's a squatch, but there are some limitations to the scientific method when you don't have a clearly classified being. But anyway, but that's where the scientific I think that's where a lot of people actually they forget that the end result of the scientific method is that do not be attached to the outcome. Because when you're employing the scientific method, are you trying to prove yourself correct?
No, you're trying to prove yourself wrong.
Or yeah, and I think what happens a lot of times is people get so invested in the process and they're so excited about having found something that they become married to the idea that their initial observation and conclusion is the right one. And then when they're proven wrong or someone suggests they might be wrong, then we get all the drama.
Yeah.
And you get this school of Bigfooters against this school of Bigfooters, and then it becomes this really political and emotional mess rather than a purely scientific shared endeavor.
Right.
So, Janice, I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, exactly.
Janice knows why we're talking about this.
Yeah. And don't say to yourself that you don't have any skills.
I don't even have any good skills.
What do you mean?
You know, like nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills.
You just wanted to play that, didn't you?
I did. My point in this is Tesla didn't have any skills. Well, he had skills, but he didn't have any education.
He didn't have any formal education.
Exactly. You know, so a lot of, in fact, almost all the greatest scientific achievements have been happened by just normal folks. And they haven't been these big, huge, educated people. And one of the things I want to point this out in the anthropological world and archaeological world that I lived in for a while, 90% of the findings, the ones that really made changes to this world, were immediately dismissed by the academics right away. And then it took years and years and years later, people finding other things and putting them together, they found out, oh, man, that guy was right. That guy who found that skull. And, you know, so what you might find may be the thing that breaks this whole Bigfoot thing wide open. But it may be poo-pooed for 12 years before somebody comes to the conclusion that, oh, that is the thing that just broke the whole thing open. So
yeah, and so I think one of the biggest things that if followed correctly, the scientific method can support and can help us with is to not be emotional about what we're finding, about what we're thinking. So, you know, if someone proves, for instance, I'm just going to say this, if someone proves someday that I am wrong about humanity being a Bigfoot ancient alien hybrid, it's not going to break my heart.
Right.
I mean, now, until someone can demonstrate that, I stand by what I have concluded. But if someone can prove me wrong, hey, more power to them. I'm open. I'm not gonna get all boo-hooey because I'm not really a Pleiadian offspring.
Yeah.
All right.
So why does it matter?
Why does it matter?
You want
me to just read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the cool part.
All right. I'm going to stay in the camera. The scientific method ensures that we are not just jumping to conclusions. It keeps our research credible and helps separate real evidence from misunderstandings or hoaxes. Even if your results don't prove Bigfoot's existence, they still add to our knowledge of the natural world. And when I was in grad school, that was the thing that, and I want to just give kudos. My favorite professor in my first round of grad school was Dr. John Garcia. He was our research professor. And he said the most important part of research is not whether you are right or wrong. It's not about right or wrong. I wish people would stop texting me. It was to add to the knowledge base, because even things that are wrong, add to the knowledge base. Like, wasn't it Edison who said, was it Edison? No, it was Ford. Was it Edison or? I think it was Edison. He had how many failures?
Oh, that's right. He's something like he found out 100 and some odd times how not to make a light bulb.
Yeah. And so, if you have discovered 50 prints that weren't Bigfoot, you are really good at identifying what is not a Bigfoot. And that is very, very important in this work. So anyway, with that, do we have any more things we can share before we go to our next section?
Yep. At Squatch America, we're not just searching for Bigfoot. We are giving back to those who serve. Every donation through YouTube and Patreon helps us to support the fallen outdoors, a veterans-led organization who takes heroes out hunting, fishing, and camping. But that's not all. We take veterans on real Bigfoot research expeditions, where they can enjoy the great outdoors and maybe, just maybe, discover something legendary. Join us in giving back. Support Squatch America today for the adventure, for the veterans, and for the wild. So, next section.
Yes, part 2.
Part 2.
All right. And of course, you know what? Even though this is recorded, go ahead and put your questions in the comments, because we read all the comments. We respond to all of your comments.
And this is going to be a premiere. So
this is a premiere as they're watching.
Yeah, this is a premiere. So we're in the chat with you.
Yeah. And so just, be yakety yakking along with us. We're fine. So why is this important? Especially, we want to talk about, the reason we're presenting this to you is because you all are what we refer to as citizen scientists. And yes, we stole that from Cliff.
Or it's been around before.
Well, okay. Cliff is just, he English as well. So anyway, I stole it from Cliff. Anyway, so why is citizen science so important? The first, and I think the most glaringly obvious reason citizen science is so important is because mainstream science does not support this at all. So, we don't have cryptozoology departments at state universities or private universities. So if they're not doing it, who's going to do the research? We got to.
Yeah.
You've got to. So grassroots, average Joe Blow people are the ones doing the work.
Yep.
So let's talk about it. Who have made significant? Let's talk about the most famous Bigfoot find of all time. One that has been never, I mean, it stands head and shoulders above all of them. Which one is that? The most famous, the most significant?
Is that the Patterson film?
The Patterson. Tell me, was Roger Patterson a scientist?
Nope, he was a cowboy.
How about Bob Gimlin?
He was a cowboy too, and in fact, I think they both, or I think I know Roger was a roofer.
A roofer, and a cowboy. I don't know what else Bob did, but and in fact, actually, Roger Patterson lived. His ranch was on the same street where I lived as a little girl. So, there was absolutely they were not scientists at all. In fact, I've yet to see the most famous scientists in the Bigfoot community, of course, is Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum. And there are several others, that are considered real scientists. And and none of them have been able to produce evidence as significant as Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin produced. So there you go. Two rough and tumble cowboys from Yakima, Washington can go make the biggest break in Bigfoot research ever made. You know, there we are. So
Hannah's homeboys.
They're a lot older than I am. But,
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, from my stomping grounds.
Her stomping grounds.
So who else has made significant discoveries in the Bigfoot world that's not?
Probably Paul Freeman.
Paul Freeman was not a scientist. He was, of course, a forest ranger.
Well, yeah, sort of. He was actually hired as a kind of like, I forgot what it was called. There's a name for it, but his job was just to patrol areas to keep people out.
Yeah.
That was his job.
So he was a forestry bouncer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's that, he did not have any special training to be a Bigfooter. And what about audio recordings? Ron Moorhead is not a scientist.
No.
Now, that doesn't mean that once you have these experiences, you don't start studying all that stuff.
And a crazy thing too about Ron Moorhead, he owned a restaurant in Mariposa, California.
While we lived there.
We
didn't even know who he was. Great restaurant too, the Miners Inn.
Yeah.
Greatest Cobb salad on the planet there, I'm telling you. And so, after all these things, people dive into it. And of course, Ron Moorhead has really gotten into the field of quantum physics and all that, which I totally am down with that. You're not so much down with that.
Not so much.
You got your Newtonians and you got your quantum physicists. And so now, how does citizen science, though, align with the scientific method? How can regular people not trained in research, because I'm trained in research, you're trained in research. We've both been formally educated in in the scientific method, but how can someone like Colin, 16-year-old Colin, I think Colin just got his driver's permit, by the way. How can young Colin in Oregon, who's definitely not a scientist yet, but who is totally down with Bigfoot stuff, or any other just average person, how can they use the scientific method to guide their efforts?
They can use it as a guide to guide their efforts.
Oh, that was a ching. All right, so
observation, question, hypothesis, experiment, data collection, analysis, conclusion, and share your findings. We didn't get to that part, but that's it. There's 8 things on the list. You can go back and rewind this and keep playing it. So if you want to write them down,
maybe I'll make an infographic and you can sign up for our email list to get a free download. How about that?
There we go. But it's not, you don't have to have a month-long course on how to do the scientific method. It's a list of things to do. That's all it is.
And if you check the boxes and do the list, then you have conducted research according to the
scientific method.
We don't have to say everything together.
Yes, we do.
All right. So
it makes me sound smarter.
Okay. And so sharing your research, how do you do that? You should be set up to share our website screen.
What do you mean?
Can you share? Can you do a live share while we're recording of our website?
Possibility. Keep talking.
All right, because we want to show you exactly how to share your stuff with us. And please, our most unfavorite method of you sharing stuff with us is comments or Facebook Messenger, and all of a sudden we have a novel in Facebook Messenger. That's not a good way. Email's okay,
because if you just out of the blue send me a Facebook message, and especially if you're not my friend, and even if I have 5,000 people on Facebook. They don't all send me messages, but we get
Messages get lost.
gets lost, and I can't. And then I'm like, oh, I remember that story. I needed to get back to that person.
Browser.
And that's how. How do I get back to them? I don't. Did they send it to me on Facebook? Did they send it to me? I don't remember. I don't remember their name. And now I gotta look through everything to try to find their messages. So we
want to walk you.
Hard problem for me.
Yeah, it's a hard problem for anyone. So we have got an actual method by which people can share their stuff with us, and we're going to show you how to get there. I got to keep talking. Go to squatchamerica.com.
I know. Type Squatch America. You got the
well,
keyboard.
you had the tab right there.
No, I didn't.
X out of that. Now go back in. Yeah, it's at the top. Oh my goodness, you're all over the place.
I just got us out of the show. No,
there you are.
There we go.
All right. Okay, see? Squatch America.
That's
Patreon. Okay.
I told you type.
All right. Squatch.
See,
okay.
I'm always right.
Yeah, you are. Squatchamerica.com. Except when you're wrong.
Except for when I'm wrong.
All right. So we're going to show this to you on our screen right now.
Okay.
Here's our website. Ba-ding. Ba-ding. Is this the final ba-ding? Ba-ding. All right. So if you go to our website at squatchamerica.com, you can scroll down. And we have 3 buttons here. The first one says what? Click here to submit your report. And that will take you. Did you see a Bigfoot? Submit your, would you get back up there? I'm reading. Mm-hmm. Submit your report right here. Even if you're not sure what you saw, heard, or felt, your experience is valuable. We want to hear about it. Maybe even follow up with you to get more info. Fill out each blank as best you can and then submit. And that is like, did you see a Bigfoot or a print or a tree structure or smell a smell? Any kind of information you can provide. This is where you submit your report. When you fill all that out, you click the submit button and we will get back to you. Mm-hmm. There is no place on this to attach your pictures and all that, but that's what happens in the
afterwards, the next step. Yeah.
So there is our Bigfoot experience encounter sighting report form that anyone can use. And that way we have got a detailed documented digital record of who sent us what, when, and then we start the communication process. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was valuable for this part.
It really is.
So, all right. So that's how you share your data with Squatch America. Now, we also want to talk about, I don't know why this is here, but this is the part where we tell you how awesome it is to research and to be in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite part about going Bigfooting?
Just being in the woods. Hearing the birds and the squirrels cussing me out, and
they do that. Cheeky little bastards.
Walking through the woods, the fresh air,
the lack of human beings,
that sort of thing. That's one of my favorite part.
Eating MREs.
Yep.
But I do love being in nature, and actually this part of my story, years ago when we first started down this road, I found that being in nature as much as we were healed a lot of the wounds that I had gotten in the first 50 years of my life just by being a human being. So nature will heal you if you allow her to. Anyway, so what about the thrill of discovery? Tell us about your thrill of discovery.
So, having been in the woods looking for Bigfoot for decades. When I finally saw one, and it took decades. And I count myself extremely lucky because most people go their whole lives without seeing them. When I had my first visual sighting, it changed my life. It put me down a path, a rabbit hole I'll never climb out of, which is fine.
You mean Bigfoot stole your
Bigfoot
soul?
stole my soul at that point. But I was already down the rabbit hole. That just took me down to the basement, So that was incredibly thrilling. Have I had other thrilling things happen? Yes. Footprints. Every time I find footprints, every time I get a sound recording or hear something in the woods that I can't explain.
Every time he sees his city girl wife squat to take a pee. Look at my honey. Look at her. Look at her go.
It's not that exciting anyway. So, but
yes, but you never thought you'd live to see the day.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool to be able to have that excitement. It's very rare too, by the way. We spend a stupid amount of time in the woods, but and we may find footprints once a year or so. That's because we spend a stupid amount of time in the woods, and we actually look for them. A lot of people don't look for them. The guys say, well, I've been a logger, I've been a hunter my whole life. Hunting season's 1 month a year. And if you're hunting multiple things, maybe you're in the woods 3 or 4 weeks a year.
And think about this.
And you're not looking for footprints. You're looking for deer prints. You're looking for stuff. When you see other footprints, you just kind of blow it off.
And why on God's green earth would an intelligent creature be hanging around where everything's being hunted?
Yeah, that's
so
too.
You're not going to find Bigfoot anything during hunting season. Here's a question. I have got a different story about the thrill of discovery. My thrill of discovery is pulling me into the camera. We're at a weird angle. My thrill of discovery comes from discovering that I love to be in nature, because that was completely foreign to me. I was not a nature girl. And so discovering that there was this whole part of me that was unknown to me until we went down this path was amazing. Were you at all moved by your wife's transformation from a city lover to a forest dweller?
Oh yeah, I was. I'm thrilled about that because you lied to me when we met.
It's because dating and courtship is all one great big lie.
Yeah.
It's true, it is. So that's another story for another time.
That is okay.
But it has been for me, and I don't know about you, but for me, the whole thrill of nature discovery has been a whole journey of self-discovery for me, and has brought me to actually a place of being a better human being than I was before. So, and what about the bond that we share with other people like us, who we all share a love of research and a love of nature?
That's the fantastic thing is the community of explorers. I have met some of my best friends in life now through Bigfoot stuff.
And I got to say something about those best friends. A lot of them are completely different from us in every other way. Different spiritual views. I mean, most of you figured out that we're somewhat a-religious. But we've got people with differing religious and spiritual views, different political views, different cultures, but we all unite around this love of science and research.
All right. If you see little glitches once in a while, that's when the internet messed up, and that's why we're going to edit this.
That's why you're seeing an edited version
of it. Like I was trying to think, some of our really good friends we've ran into through the Bigfoot world, Ben, Janice, Donna, Scott Goebel is probably my best friend. you know,
I think Janice and I are pretty close to besties.
yeah, you know, and so got reacquainted with some old friends too. Renee, there's one through the
Yeah,
Bigfoot
she's
world.
like up there with bestie for me too,
Yeah,
which is weird.
So you know, stuff like that. It's been a fantastic ride this last
5 years.
5 years. So that's one of the things. We have a community,
Mhm.
and a community that with a shared goal, and that's one of the best things about this, being a citizen scientist and doing the scientific method together.
And actually, I honestly think that citizen scientists make a better community than formal scientists.
Yeah, because formal scientists are not. It's weird because they're like doing the same goal. They're trying to come up with the same
The
thing,
same end result.
end results, but they don't want the other guy to do it first. And with us, I'm totally the different. I don't. I would like somebody else to do it first. You know.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that maybe this is a personal judgment, but if you run into people that care more about their conclusion than they do about the process and the method and where it leads them, if they are more attached to the conclusion they've come to than the process of truth finding, I would back off, because those are the people that cause division in the research field.
Mhm.
And we got enough division in the world. We don't need it here.
Right.
So one of the things that I think that we strive to really and we are about the process. We are not about an attachment to an outcome.
Yeah. Just remember this. This is my favorite saying.
Mango only pawn in game of life.
Yeah. I like being Mongo. Go watch that show. It'll upset you.
If you don't know what it is, you can private message us and we'll tell you.
Yeah.
I think if we say the name of that movie, we might be canceled.
Yeah, exactly.
But those of you who are of a certain age know exactly what that was.
Yep.
Anyway, so I think that brings us to the end of our pre-recorded show.
Yep. So
just remember, we will have another one of these next week. What is our topic next week?
I thought was going to talk about being citizen scientists, but we kind of covered it today.
We kind of covered all that today. So it's fine. We'll have something amazing for you next week. Next week will also be pre-recorded because we will not have left this place yet. But then the following week we should be back on live.
Yeah, and I think I know the next one we're going to talk about is we might do a little more pre-recording on that one, and we're going to talk about our new idea for finding Bigfoot.
Don't steal your thunder.
I'm not my new invention.
You remind me of that guy in the old Walt Disney Babes in Toyland.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Toymaker, look what I invented.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a ray gun to make toys.
Yeah. So, with that said,
our job at Squatch America is to investigate the unexplained,
not to explain the uninvestigated.
So until next week, thank you so much for being with us, for watching, for being part of our research community. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. And so you keep watching.
We'll keep squatching.
Now go out and
find Bigfoot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That damn Sasquatch.
Squatch America.